$6 million qualified energy conservation bond, and the duration of that project was 6 years. The Thomas Jefferson Pumping Station. This is one of the older pumping stations that we have. As you see, improvements to circa 1928 building. It was a lot of facade work, but then we went inside, and when we reevaluated the system, there were more things that we realized that we needed to do to make it more energy efficient, as well as gain the efficiencies of pumping. And that was a construction duration of 1 year and a cost of $3.5 million. Then there's soil water purification plant, which is actually the oldest pumping purification plant in the city. It was opened in 1947, and there we came in and did some actual improvements there to improve the efficiencies. For a construction cost of $47 million, which was an IEPA state revolving loan, and the approximate construction duration is August 2014 to July 2018. And again, these are just a couple of the pictures of some of the improvements that we've done. To be able to do all of this work, we have to make sure that we can coordinate through a lot of different departments, as well as a lot of different other utilities. And with that, you have the OUC reviews, which you can kind of see with the BRT maps and proposals, which was a huge project for the city of Chicago for the Loop Link. When the Loop Link was being done, the Department of Water Management was actually the coordinator of all the utility work for that project. Say the sewer is on the bottom, we had to make sure that we went in first and then we built from that point up. Because of the unprecedented cooperation, we're able to get a lot of the work done. And as you can see, the public right-of-way, we have to coordinate with CDOT, the county for cost-sharing resurfacing, People's Energy, being able to televise private drains, ComEd, Telecom, and others. And with the facilities and the consumers, ComEd, Transformer at the soil water purification plant, the Chicago Department of Public Health, so we make sure that we share as much information to people as we can about how clean the water is, as well as working with CPS and parks on water quality testing and procedures, and problem solving in service lines and in the schools and the parks. The operational improvements in cooperation with CPS and the Chicago Department of Public Health, we did a cooperation with them to automate the 311 for water quality requests and use of GIS. What this does for us, this gives us a chance to go in and to GIS the schools, the water fountains, and some of the service lines going in so we know where they are coming off of our mains. And with that, they're actually able to request that a testing kit, so that they think that there's a problem with a resident or the park or the school think there's an issue with their water, they can request a testing kit, and then we'll come out and sample the water, and then we'll have them to either mail it back to us, or we'll come and pick it up, and then if they have any questions, they can just call us, and we'll get back to them with the results, usually within 3 weeks. So a multi-approach to flooding. As you know, again, we've been hit by a lot of the 10-year storms, the 25-year storms, and the 100-year storms. And what we're looking at is a matter of brain infrastructure, data-driven decisions, and as well as one of the bigger things that we're doing is the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel. With the green infrastructure, we know that it keeps the water above ground a lot longer, which gives us less burden on the sewers, and it also enhances property values, because especially since there are a lot of homes and there are a lot of constituents, people who are looking to go green. And it also reduces the energy use. The less energy that we have to use to process the water is just that much better for the ozone and the environment. A lot of our decisions are data-driven decisions, the use of hydraulic and hydrology modeling to determine the capacity of existing sewers. One thing that we're doing, I'm challenging our engineers to decide, are you replacing the sewer mains now, the mains that you're replacing now, are you replacing them for now, or are you replacing them to be sustainable and be able to actually sustain the upcoming rains within 5 years? And the way they answered that question was, it's pipe in the ground, this is what we're doing. I said, but that doesn't help anybody. I said, if anything, we have to, if we're always talking about leaving the earth and leaving all of this to our children, to our grandchildren, so we have to make sure that something's there for them to be able to enjoy. So now they get it, so they're doing the design work a little bit differently. It's a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, it pays off. For instance, the Albany Park Diversion Tunnel. That's one of the things that it diverts probably about. It'll be able to divert about 1 billion gallons of water once that tunnel is actually done. So any of the overflow from Chicago River and the North Branch, whatever it floods when we get one of those rains, it'll actually help the area from flooding. Another way of us trying to actually do water conservation is the meter save program. We install meters on non-meter, single family and 2 flats. It's a 7-year guarantee that your metered bill will not be higher than what your estimated bill was. And for instance, for my house, I was paying about $600 every 6 months because of the number of the fixtures in the house as well as the square footage of the property. I have a meter now and my water bill is about $60 every 2 months because of usage. So it actually works, and it's guaranteed, and you will see the savings, and again, it helps the environment. So with that being said, we get into the 2012 to 2017 CIP, the Capital Improvement Program. This just gives an idea of how robust Mayor Emanuel's program is. If you can see, in the first year before we started the CIP, we were doing about 30 miles of water main replacement, and you notice every year it's doubled. So now in 2016, it tripled up to 90 miles. So we've been able to really ramp that program up so we can be able to try to become more efficient in how we deliver water and how we remove wastewater from the city. So CURRENT is Chicago's Water Research and Technology Innovation Platform. In 2016, the mayor announced CURRENT in DC at the White House at a water summit. And what this arm will do for the city of Chicago is for research, demonstration, and connect. The research that gives the collective capabilities of our research partners to be able to go out and do the research on new technologies. The demonstration, the Chicago Department of Water Management as well as Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, we're partnering so that we can be the incubators and be the crash test dummies for these different technologies that may come about. And as far as the connect, once these things are tested, CURRENT is able to take the things that we've tested and put them on the market for investors to be able to invest in water technology. Security. So Chicago is one of those places that everybody knows is always high on alert. And because we have the largest water filtration systems in the world, well, the largest, we always have to make sure that our security is always at its best. So with the security, we have high security on the 2 intake cribs, which are about 6 miles out into Lake Michigan, which we monitor daily, the 2 purification plants, the 12 pumping stations, and the 12 district field facilities. All of these facilities, on total, we have about 600 cameras that monitor these facilities. We actually we do assessments and response plans and do actual different demonstrations with local, state, and federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies. We have recently had a meeting with Homeland Security to ensure that our security methods are up to par with what would need to be if there was ever any type of attack. So what's on tap? I know, horrible, I know. So the idea is to continue our CIP. Year 7 in 2018, those are our goals, as well as 2019, 2020, and 2021. After it's all said and done, we should have about 880 miles of water main done and approximately over 700 miles of sewer rehabilitated. And these are our partners. Without these partners, there's no way we can actually get it done. Peoples Gas, Cook County, we try to collaborate to make sure that not only are we doing it efficiently, but we're saving taxpayer dollars. We try to ensure that if Cook County is doing work, that we get in there before Cook County so that we don't tear up the street, pave it, and then the county comes back and does the exact same thing. Why do we do it? So Chicago's report card is one of the best in the country right now. The American Society of Civil Engineers considers Chicago Department of Water Management a success story. There are cities around the country that actually come in to understand how we process water, how we get rid of wastewater, and what the mayor's robust infrastructure program is all about, how we finance it, how we're able to get the contractors to be able to come in and bid on it and get the best prices. And it says nowhere in this more apparent than in the Chicago area. In 2014, investments by the MWRD and the Chicago Department of Water Management generated nearly 20,000 total jobs, including more than 10,000 direct construction, water, and sewage jobs, Together, both local government enterprises increased regional economic output by almost $2 billion over the year. Keeping the system in good repair. It supports productivity and strengthens the economy. It saves businesses and fuels competition. It saves jobs and generates high-quality jobs. It benefits all sectors, reliable and efficient water systems. One of the greatest things that Rob Emanuel, the mayor, has stated is that he wants to continue to create jobs in the city of Chicago. He wants to keep jobs here. He wants to bring in more companies. Last week, he actually took a delegation to Israel to talk about how do we bring more water technology here? How do we do it for healthcare? How do we figure out how to get those incubators from Israel, which is the leading country in startups right now, to Chicago? While we were there, there's about 6 companies that have committed to come here and make Chicago their hub to be able to start up businesses. And this is just a weekly email updates from DPS, and this is just an alert to just talk about any work that's going on for the Chicago Department of Water Management and any other department within the city of Chicago, whether it's construction or construction management. And that's it, and I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Question. You indicated you're doing 880 miles of sewers.
Mm-hmm.
How many total miles of sewers are there?
There's over 4,300.
4,300?
Is there any plan, 10, 100 years from now to have any kind of ring road or intermodal bypass to the city? I would really like that.
Well, one of the things that has been discussed in the history of the city is various transit lines that do the ring road. It continues to be something that looking to work with some of the private partnerships, the railroads. There are opportunities for that, but land acquisition is the challenge with that. But there are a lot of plans, even going back to Daniel Burnham, that kind of show some of those ring roads around the city.
Most of the climate change models show Chicago being a whole lot wetter and hotter towards the middle of the century. How in the world do you reconcile what you really need to do with draining the city, given all those different models that make different projections? How do you figure out how to model for the future?
So, again, there was a delegation that went to Israel last week, and I was fortunate to be a part of that delegation. And what we've realized is that being in Israel, they have one of the most phenomenal engineering feats ever in life. They brought water to the desert and it's green. So they've actually have the technology to be able to figure out what those models look like, and they're actually building their water systems and their wastewater systems to be able to conserve water and to be able to use the affluent and whatever that waste, and 90% of their wastewater and other functions. So we're actually teaming up with Israel. We're teaming up with different countries, not even within the United States. Like I said, different countries to actually figure out what that looks like. We're looking at this advanced technologies. The city of Chicago is probably about 20 to 30 years behind in that technology because of the way that we've always done work. And it's come to a critical mass where we have to do something a little different. So, like I said, we're outside the country looking at different models and the different technologies that are out there.
Thank you for your presentations. What is the likelihood of an express train to O'Hare anytime soon?
I'll let him answer. I'll get in trouble.
I know, me too.
No, the aspects of Chicago, in collaboration with them, I know the CTA, there's a couple different ways of looking at it, but we've also looked at Metra as the options. So we continue to look at the different models. It's going to happen. And Cook does stand in support of what the mayor's plan is, along with some of the private railroads that might do something that's on the public-private side of things.
You projected a very significant increase in end retail water customers over the next 3 to 5 years. Could you speak a little bit about where you see that growth coming? Are there particular parts of the metropolitan area where you see that growth, or is it population growth that you're looking at?
It's actually a little bit of both. It's population growth within the city of Chicago, and there's actually population growth within the surrounding college suburbs. Again, our models are showing us that we're gaining we're making significant gains just in the number of people that are moving into the city, and it shows by the number of buildings that are being built. It's showing that, for instance, we have to make sure that as we do our water designs, that we account for that. And again, we're showing, our engineers actually take a look at how the real estate market to understand who moves in and who moves out, so they can be able to make those determinations of what those water mains should look like, what those service sizes should look like, and what the conservation methods should be. So it's a few things that go into that, but our determination is definitely coming from the amount of real estate that's going up in Chicago and the amount of people that are coming from different cities and different states to the college suburbs.
Chicago seems to be susceptible to flash flooding. And that's, I think, ultimately because the water eventually makes it to the lake, but in periods of heavy rain, which we seem to get more frequently, it's there and then it's gone because it overloads the system. Is there any program or plan to investigate more green, like problem-solving parts? Like there's plenty of vacant land, everything from small lots in neighborhoods to large commercial areas. Is there any plan to deconvert those lands into retention or rain gardens or other green areas to alleviate some of this brief flooding that we get?
Absolutely. So we're actually partnering with MWRD to look at those different things. We're doing a pilot program with them on the southeast side, and we're targeting some of the heavy flooding areas and different means and methods on how to alleviate the flash flooding. Flash flooding, we've determined that it'll never go away because of the amount of asphalt and concrete that we have in the city of Chicago. If the water has no place to go, it's going to sit, it's going to flood, it overtaxes the system. Eventually it gets into the lake, it gets into the overflows and then down the river, but it takes a lot longer. So again, in those ideas of green, the Department of Water Management at one time were using rain blockers to keep the water in the street longer, to keep the water from overtaxing the system and going into the residents' homes. We're also looking at different culverts and bioswales. We're looking at these areas where there aren't any sewers, such as in Wildwood, where all the streets are unimproved. We're looking at the residents there enjoy the country feel, so we're looking to really give them a country feel by giving them culverts, which will actually help, and it'll be able to maintain the water a little longer, and it'll keep it off the street. So there are a lot of different pilots that are out there, and so we're looking at everything right now. And as you know, everything is always a matter of funding. So we're partnering with MWRD. We're looking for public-private partnerships to see how far we can get with it.
I'm going to recognize that my first part is that this would cost more money. But as the city is replacing these sewer mains, was there ever any consideration given to the idea of putting in two pipes that eventually could be decoupled into an uncombined sewer system where you've got wastewater and stormwater going through two different paths in the future, so that someday we could alleviate the combined sewer overflow considerations?
So what's interesting about that is that some of the studies that we've done and some of the modeling that we've done is it costs more money to be able to do that. So we're actually looking at different ways of treating that water and understanding how to use it more effectively. Again, in Israel, they use 90% of their waste and stormwater for other things after it's treated. It's used mainly for agriculture and for watering whatever grass that they have. So we're actually looking at those technologies to figure out if that's something that we can do. There's also something, and I'm still studying it with the US EPA, with two separate systems and a water main in the ground. So there's a lot of different things that we have to look at, but again, we're looking, and you're right, it's more expensive, but that's why we're looking at different ways of treating the water to keep the water more in the city and see if we can reuse it and repurpose it in some other shape, form, or fashion.
Any further questions? One final question, then I'll ask you to help me thank our speakers, but I appreciate the message that you gave about cooperation amongst multiple agencies and some regional cooperation. And I'm wondering if you can share how you, in your leadership roles, have been able to successfully accomplish those things. I think you probably have a room full of converts here that would all, chant for cooperation and so forth. So if you could just share some of your success stories there.
I've had the privilege of working in 3 major infrastructure departments in the city of Chicago in the 23 years that I've been here. And because of that, I was able to develop a lot of relationships. And I believe that you get more done with the relationships that you build than with trying to bully somebody into trying to get it done. With the cooperation, it just makes it easier. A success story, for instance, is, and I was sharing this story the other day, is that we're replacing all of this water main, and I will tell anybody, the Chicago Department of Water Management is nothing but a utility. You pay a water bill the same way that you pay a light bill, a gas bill, whatever the case may be. We are a utility. So as a utility, I cannot necessarily force another utility to get out of my way. I can ask them to, but if they tell me no, it becomes a conflict. So with that, with the relationships being built, I have to actually get my engineers to understand that even though there may be a ComEd duct package in our line of lay for our water main, because the water main is pressurized, you don't necessarily have to make them move. You can go over it, under it, around it, you can go through it. And what that does is, it actually saves the ComEd, the other utility, $300,000, $500,000, so that they don't have to replace their duct package if there's nothing wrong with it. And what it also does is it gains a partnership so that when you ask them to do that, they'll tell you, we'll move it, but we'll move it when we get ready to. So with that being said, all it does is increase the cost with delays in construction, and because we're in the public, because we're in the street, because we have to deal with elected officials and dealing with the mayor, it doesn't bode well when that hole is open longer than what you projected it to be open. So we've actually sat down with the utilities just to say, look, we want to rebuild these relationships. We want to ensure that everyone's on the same page. Whatever we can do for you, we will. Whatever you can do for us, we appreciate it, but there has to be a conversation, not a dictatorship.
You saw from that slide earlier that we own roughly 5% of the road network. Cook County just focused on our roads for decades, but we're now open for business. We've been building relationships in the communities. Every one of our roads is in a community that's basically the partnerships that we're looking for. We've got some success stories, but we also have some folks that still distrust this unit of government. But we're just hoping with just some of the examples of projects that we've been able to successfully deliver, planes, trains, automobiles, all of that is a transportation network that in Cook County, we have to build those partnering relationships. So our door is open for more of that collaboration. And again, we've got some of these success stories that we'd love to be able to spend some time, make ourselves available, and discuss this further. So thank you again for this opportunity.
I just, in closing, want to thank both the commissioner and the superintendent, and as a small token of our appreciation for your time and your insights and so forth, we have a gift that we wanted to share with each of you. So thank you again, and please join me in thanking both of them for